Hey everyone, welcome back to the Unlocking Doors podcast. My name's Cory and I'm here with my co-host, Michelle Castle. Today we're going to be talking about 3 mistakes that homeowners should avoid. Michelle, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. All right, let's get right into it. So, one of the big mistakes that I see homeowners make right now is they are going for that affordability and they're looking at where they can cut different expenses, and one of the ones they cut is their insurance and or not getting rid of it, but maybe going for the wrong coverage and or being underinsured. So I wanted to talk about that just a little bit and how that could be a major issue in case anything comes up.
Right. So a lot of times when folks come to us, like they have this idea what the payment's going to be on the house. And interest rates are what they are. Taxes are what they are. So they feel the one place that they can cut is insurance.
Yep.
So we see people shop for insurance just based on premium
Right.
and don't even know what their coverage is.
Yeah.
We've even seen some binders come back with like 3 and 4% deductibles. Well, you and I know what that means, but what does that mean? Tell our listeners, what would that mean if you had a roof claim?
So if you have a roof claim, that means typically you would want something that's a 1% deductible. And that means if you have to file an insurance claim because a hailstorm came and just absolutely busted your
Wiped
roof
it
up,
out. Yeah.
then you're paying 1% of the replacement cost of the structure. And, let's say you've got a $300,000 house, that's a $3,000 deductible that you're paying. And what we see is some of these policies will have, like you said, a 3-4% deductible. And at that point, it's like, well, why don't I just save up and pay cash to replace the roof instead of paying insurance? And so there's a lot of issues that can really kind of, a small issue that could turn into a big issue. And
that small
expensive.
savings, and the savings may be, $35-$40 a month.
Yeah.
But you do have a hailstorm. If you have an adjuster look at your roof and they say, yes, your roof has damage, you now have damaged roof on the record of that house.
Yeah. And it's got to be taken care of.
It's got to get taken care of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing with insurance policies, and neither one of us are insurance specialists.
Absolutely. We're not experts.
Yeah.
We just have spent a lot of money on insurance through the years.
Yes. So another thing that I see quite often is, let's say I'm going to sell a house and they do their inspection and it comes back and there's clearly hail damage on the roof. The seller goes to file a claim and they don't have replacement cost coverage. They have actual cash value coverage, ACV, or some other policy like that. And where, they're expecting, I'm going to pay my deductible, the roof's going to be covered.
Yeah.
They might get like $6,000 or $7,000 to replace a $25,000 roof or that's kind of
not
extreme,
near enough, right?
Then they're having to either take that out of the proceeds or maybe the deal falls apart and then there's still...
It sounds like you have a story for that one.
I have a couple of stories. I've seen that before.
Yeah.
Firsthand.
Well, especially right now where it's like, well, we had a surprise hail season.
Yes.
This year. And that was totally unexpected for this. We've had 2 hailstorms, actually, one in Sherman, one in Denison. So I know there's a lot of properties where sellers were unpleasantly surprised with the terms of their insurance policy, and it's cost them money.
Yeah, absolutely. So
anyway.
We've talked about insurance. Another one that...
Well, let's back up.
Okay.
So whenever you are looking to buy in a home, or if you own a home currently, look at your insurance policy and look and see exactly what are you insured for. You may even have some collectibles in your home, and your personal property doesn't even cover everything. If you were to lose your house, you may not even have enough coverage to replace just not the memories, because of course you can't replace the one-of-a-kind things, but just the electronics. I mean, you think about it, if you lost your phone and TVs are cheap, but some of the other things that are expensive, do you even have enough coverage to replace that? Right. Or water damage. That's another area I think that people skimp on their insurance. They don't get the water damage coverage, and a water heater breaks.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you need floors and you have wall damage. So pay attention, really look at your policy and make sure that you have the coverage that you think you do, or that you know what it's going to cost if you were to file a claim.
Right, exactly. And all that to say too is I would consult with an insurance agent who really has your best interest at heart and can really explain that stuff, because it can get pretty complex.
Once a year. It needs to be reviewed once a year because values of homes go up once a year. You are buying things once a year. I mean, life changes once a year.
Yep.
You need to look at that annually. I mean, I do a review on my mortgage loans for my customers once a year for the same reasons. But that rolls into, I think, another topic for another episode. And we'll talk a little bit further about escrow. So stay tuned to the next episode because we're going to talk about escrows because insurance does play a factor in your escrows.
Yeah, absolutely. So underinsured or wrong coverage is one mistake that I've seen homeowners make. Another one, and once again, this is, personal experience over the years, and I'm sure you have experience, is solar panels. Now, I don't want people to think we're sitting here saying, don't get solar panels.
No.
Solar panels are bad.
Heck, solar panels saved my parents whenever we had that freeze and what would we call that? Snowpocalypse?
I've heard it called so many different
Snowmageddon
things.
or whatever it was.
Yeah. However, the one thing that I do want people to be aware of is how you finance them.
Absolutely.
Or don't ever, I'm not a fan of leasing them, or if you're just paying for them outright. But the big mistake that I see is somebody knows that they're going to be selling their house in a year, 2 years, or maybe they're just uncertain what their life's going to look like over the next 3 to 5 years, and they'll go spend $60,000 on a solar panel system that, and they'll finance it, because those door-to-door salesmen can really get you with.
They're good. They're good.
I've had sellers who they'll spend $60,000. They finance it. Of course, there's a note that's tied to that property that's got a lien on it. And to sell your property, you have to have that paid off. The one thing that homeowners may not realize is that just because you put a $60,000 system on your house, that won't increase your value $60,000.
Right.
In fact, I've talked to some local appraisers, and they say until they have enough identical comps with and without solar panels,
we don't know if the market really demands it or not.
Then they can't give any adjustment to value. So that's just one thing that people definitely need to be aware of.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. So the financing aspect of it to keep in mind too is if someone's borrowing money on the house and you are leasing it or making payments on it, they have to be willing to take over the payments and they have to qualify to be able to take over the payments. And sometimes those payments are equivalent to a car payment.
Yeah.
So, it really might keep a buyer from being able to purchase a home even if they wanted to, unless the seller is willing to pay it off. They don't always want to or have the funds to do that. So for sure. But then the other part of that on solar panels that you have to be mindful of is insurance coverage.
Right.
Again, I mean, back to insurance coverage. So you have, if the solar panels are on the property, on the roof, then you got to make sure if you were to have some damage, are they going to replace and take care of the shingles under the solar panels? You're going to remove the solar panels.
Yeah.
Solar panel company has to actually do the removal and the installation. It's a lot to consider.
Yeah. And their big sales pitch is get rid of your electricity payment, your electric bill. But then they don't really follow that up with, now you have a note that you have to pay and you have a system that you have to insure. And so
without battery storage, you're not able to retain what you're generating.
Right. And so that's just one thing that, once again, we're not saying don't get solar panels.
I think they're a great idea, but just be aware.
Be informed on what that looks like, how it affects you, and how it could affect the sale of your property if you're thinking about selling in the near future. So that was number 2. And number 3 is deferred maintenance on a home. I have several stories of how that can affect the sale of a property and just really how over time it just adds up, and it's, something that's small can turn into something that's overwhelming and you can't afford to fix anymore. So, like a small leaky shower head that is dripping over behind,
Water. I love water, but it's such an enemy to a home.
It is. Yeah. It's the scariest thing when I think about real estate and water.
Yeah.
It's, it can cause so much damage. And if you let it go on and don't get it taken care of, something that's a $300, $400, $500 repair can be thousands of dollars later on down the road.
There's so many things. If you're a homeowner, and I've got young adult children, several of which have never owned homes before. So, one of them has serious struggles with drainage because in some of our neighborhoods, we have the house next to you might be elevated a little bit higher. So the water runoff towards your house then becomes a problem, especially if we get a flash flood.
Yeah.
And just the little things like making sure that the soil in your flower bed is not above that brick line. The brick sitting on your slab is really important. Gutters have got to stay cleared out because that the wood rot that happens with those eaves.
Yeah.
And I mean, it can get expensive.
Yeah.
So it's all of those little things that almost once a month you really need to take, like have checklists and take a look at your house and make sure you're not ignoring the little things that do become expensive.
Yeah. Or, some of the bigger ticket items would be like, that there's something going on with your HVAC system, but you don't want to call the HVAC company to service it because you're like, well, I don't really,
I don't want
I'm
to service
scared of
call.
what they might find. Well, then whenever it's 110 outside in the middle of summer, that's when your AC is going to go out. It never goes out on a day like today when it's like 80 degrees.
Where you could open the windows if you had to.
That never happens.
Yeah.
So
it's the maintenance. It is the little things.
Yeah.
And you go to sell the house and it's just taken away from the profit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or if you say, you know what, I'm so tired of this house. I'm ready to move on. I don't want to fix anything. I'm just going to sell it as it is. It's going to limit your buyers because there's a lot of buyers that don't want that maintenance, number one. Number two, they may not qualify for the house because of the condition.
Right.
So you're limiting your buyers because you're limiting the financing option. So anyway, that deferred maintenance is a big deal. I know we're all busy. We are really busy.
Yes.
If you've got kids, you're busy. If you've got any kind of life, you're busy. And that's the last thing you want to do, especially if there's football going on or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you own a home and there is some responsibility to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Well, that's my short list, the 3 big things that stand out to me, the 3 biggest mistakes I see homeowners making. If you have any others that you would add to that list, be sure and leave a comment down below and let us know what that is. Also, make sure that you subscribe to our channel, share this with a friend, and we will see you on the next episode.